We got connected through Doug's program as well, same place I got connected to Dr. Lynn and some of the other ladies. And I just felt drawn to you, not just because of our names right away. And then we were part of, you were online for the Russell Brunson thing whenever I was there in person. And we watched it beforehand. And that's when
I
he
think we
was
did the month
doing that.
before.
Yeah, he did the hangout with Russell, and we're like, we need to hang out with Sam. And we're like, which one's gonna get it? And we did a little contest, and you won. You won.
Yeah,
And
that
that's
was
okay.
fun.
I'm not bitter. It's okay. And so Samantha is a wonderful human, and I am actually coaching with her right now, working on some of my wellness habits, my health, my weight, and I'm really impressed with the how you encourage me to make these micro little choices, some things that just add up over time. And I'm seeing some success in ways I haven't in a very long time. And so I'm truly honored to be connected to you just as a human, and but also how you're showing up in the world and how you're helping other people be who God created them to be. So thank you for being here tonight. I'm looking forward to what you have to say, and no pressure, but you're the last one.
I've been giving myself enough pressure about that. So, like, Sam let us choose our spots, and I've got four kids. So I thought if I go towards the end of the time slots, then I have more time to prepare and figure things out. And then when I realized after everything was said and done and it was all in place that I was closing it out, and I was like, what have I done? I hope I'm prepared for this. I truly feel so honored and blessed to be able to be one of Sam's coaches because if you know her at all, she doesn't work with just anybody. She's very selective about who she lets into her headspace, as we all should be. And so I've gotten to work with her on a very personal one-on-one level since I think like July or August. And just seeing the dedication that she puts into everything that she does, it was just really so exciting that I get to be a part of her world and to see the inner workings of everything that she makes happen is just, it's so cool to be able to see that side. For a lot of times we see people and we see what they show us, but we don't get to see everything that goes into who they are on a fundamental level. And thank you, Sam, for putting this together, for trusting me to close this out. Thank you. I hope that what I have to share will touch some lives and also allow us all to take something away from this incredible week. There have been so many amazing speakers every single day. I just can't even believe how the caliber of speakers and leaders and just people, women especially, that Sam has connected with and brought to everybody here. So I was not going to do slides, but when I was praying about it, I felt like there's just a certain part of my story and how gratitude plays into that that needs to be shared, and there's no better way to do it than with a photo. So I am going to share just a little bit. I don't have a ton of slides because I'm not really a slide person, but I'm going to share with you. Let's see. Because I'm not a slide person, I do not promise that it will be perfect or pretty. So you just have to bear with me. Okay. Present. There we go. Okay. So I started probably about 6 or 7 years ago what I call the Create Your Life movement. And what create your life means is it's really an opportunity for us to say, this is my life. This is how I want to live. This is how I want to show up in the world for myself, for the people closest to me every single day, to live a life that I love. Because I was not raised to know that something like that existed. I thought you just got handed whatever life dealt you and you just had to figure out how to make the best of it. And that was that. And it wasn't until I got connected in my early 20s to some entrepreneurial people in network marketing. And after having grown up, every single memory I have is of welfare in and out of foster care, lots of really trying times. And these people, they made a lot of money. I had never known that you could just go travel and leave the place that you grew up. My grandparents' house 4 hours away was like, that's vacation. And that's exciting. And we used to chase the tumbleweeds for fun in the middle of this little podunk town in Nevada. And I didn't know that people flew unless you were like elite. I didn't know that there was anything outside of that. I didn't go to Vegas till I was 23 and I lived 6 hours from it. Like I just had no idea. And these people were traveling, they were checking out the world, they were doing these cool things with their kids. I was a young mom, and they were talking about like how grateful they were to have all of this. And I was also raised with the mindset of rich people, wealthy people, they're arrogant, they're snobby, they don't care about other people. And these people were like, we were struggling because we had my husband and I at the time, we had really poor mindsets, honestly, about money like 20, $30,000 a year, we were like making it. I thought that was good money for two young people with a kid. And they literally, like, when we were going through some of the hardest times of our life, figuring out who we were and what we were going to do with ourselves and how I wanted to raise our kid, they literally, from their own pockets, we'd show up to events and they would pay for our food because they knew that we didn't have money. Like I would go because I wanted to be in the room. I just wanted to be around these people with this different energy that it was so foreign, but so freeing at the same time. And so I'd just go to dinner with them and they'd be like, "What are you ordering?" And I was like, "Oh, water. I'm not hungry. I ate before I came." And they were like, no, you didn't. We know how this works. Order food." And they even like when we go to events far away from where we lived, they would just like, slip money for gas to us just because we were making the effort to be there and being encouraging and supportive of other people. And they were a light to me when I was going through a lot of darkness in my life. And so many people throughout my life have been that for me. And it wasn't until I got really lost trying to prove who I was, because I still didn't understand what they were doing or why they were doing it, that they were giving me a hand up and not a handout. Because as soon as I learned that for a lot of people who go through what I did as a kid, when people give them something, blessings like we were given, it's a handout. They don't appreciate it. And it's not our place to judge that, but I could see it because of the environment that I was raised in. And so I was like, on one side, I was super grateful that they were doing this. On the other side, I was so ashamed that I needed it. And so I didn't do anything with it. And then I just wanted to retreat into a hole and pretend like none of it was true. And I wanted to hide. And it started really honestly, what I do with Sam is I help people to figure out how can we tap into the best of who you are through your health, through the nutrition side, through the physical fitness side. How can we extract that? But also, how do we bring God into all of this? And what does that mean to be able to bring out the best of who we are and have it be a hand up and get people to say, I deserve this. I want this for me, and help them to find gratitude where they are now, but also where they're going to go and where they're capable of. Because I honestly believed when I show you some pictures on the next slide, I believed for a long time that gratitude meant that I had to embrace the horrible things I was going through and every trial that was handed my way, and then just be okay with it. I thought gratitude meant accepting it the way that it was and then just trying to put on a brave face until eventually it went away. And I learned that it doesn't just go away. It doesn't. You don't get a breakthrough by pretending that the trials don't exist or that's just the way it is. And that was such a hard lesson for me to learn, to be able to figure that out. And when I started to go through that breakthrough process, if you've ever seen a breakthrough at all in any form, it's hard. It is so hard to break through the threshold. Can you imagine being water trying to break through a canyon and how many years it has to try and it just hits against it and hits against it and it just keeps hitting rock and hitting that mountain? And it's what in the world? If I was water, I'd probably want to be like, never mind, show me the way around, or else I'm just gonna sit. And Eventually, though, water is so much better than I am and better than a lot of us because it just persists. It just keeps hitting against it and hitting against it, believing that it has somewhere else to go. And eventually, it does start to erode that rock and it starts to make its way through. And it's really cool to be able to do that. I'm obsessed with water. I will eventually live by the ocean, mark my words. I'm making my way. I went from living in Utah, far from the ocean, to I'm about 2.5 hours. We're getting there. We will make it. So I love water analogies. It's just so healing. And to think of breakthroughs like that, to think of it like, how can I not necessarily pretend that the hard trials aren't real or to pretend that's just the way it is, but also to find gratitude in where we are and the potential of where we're going. And when I started to go through that breakthrough process, it's painful to hit against rock all the time like that and to still have faith that something's going to happen. And when I started hitting against the rock a lot, trying to make a pathway through where nobody in my bloodline has ever been, I started to wonder if God really was for me. He was like my saving grace through everything I went through growing up. If it was spiritual, I was there. And then when I became an adult and I started having kids and my marriage wasn't going how I thought that a marriage was supposed to be, and I started seeing all these other people who were happy and I wasn't happy, I was faced with a lot of questions. And when I was a kid, questions were such a bad thing. Like, how dare you ask something? Keep your mouth shut, sit down. When I say jump, you say how high after you've already gone halfway up. You don't ask questions. So then when I was encouraged to ask questions about my faith, as I was trying to figure this out, I was like, okay, if people get to be happy and I'm not happy and I'm just supposed to be grateful for it, but also God wants more for me, but nothing more is coming, what in the world? Have you ever heard the song Where Was God? Where was God when I needed him? And then I felt like I didn't have a reason to be grateful for anything because now I was questioning God. How dare I question God? I had nothing to be grateful for. And I sat there for a long time, for years, honestly, just trying to figure it out and trying to understand. And I put on a proverbial mask. I decided that the best way through was to hide, to never let anybody in. I was running a business where I was front-facing clients every single day, kneecap to kneecap, as they said in my finance business. And when they'd ask me questions about my own finances and about my own relationships, I would skirt around that as fast as possible, pull up a leadership principle, say something that somebody else's truth happened to come from, and then they would be like, "Oh, sounds good." And I was like, "Yeah, dodged a bullet. Okay." Another check mark. Another day we've got through without having to be honest about this, but also not lying. Like I just became really good at pretending. And if they were like, "Hey, let's come hang out at your house." Oh, yeah, my house. No. Let's go somewhere else, anywhere else, so that I didn't have to share. So I didn't have to be vulnerable. And eventually that led me to a point that when you get to the point where God says, "Okay, enough is enough," you need to stop pretending. You need to stop hiding. You need to face life as it is in order to have that breakthrough. You're never going to stop hitting this rock and actually get somewhere and flow through if you don't. I decided that when my husband came to me and said, "We're moving across the country," I was like, "Yes, escape." Okay, we don't have to do this right now. And I got to hide more. And then COVID happened, and I was like, "Okay, perfect. I can hide behind a camera. For real, nobody has to see my real life." And somebody in a leadership group said they're talking to the whole room, but really they're talking to me, right? I'm sure you've experienced that. And your business is never going to go where you want it to if your home is a mess. Not just stuff all over the floor because you have kids and people live there, but if you don't fix your home, your personal life, who you are on the inside, your relationship with God and the people around you. If you don't fix that, none of this business stuff matters. You don't need to have more CRMs. You don't need a fancier social media presence. You don't need to manage your clients better. You don't need more communication with your teams. You need to fix you. You need to be real with who you are, really real. So that when it actually does happen, when your business breaks through and it just explodes in a way you'll never imagine, you'll be asking yourself, how good can life get? Can it really get better than this? You'll actually want it because you'll get there and it'll be completely meaningless if your home is a wreck. And that kind of shattered me a little bit. And a couple weeks later after this event, we got the opportunity to spend months working with a psychologist who came in every single Wednesday and he was teaching us personal development and emotional intelligence. I'd never heard of emotional intelligence before. I was like, I'm emotionally fine and I'm super intelligent. I'm good. Let's learn some leadership stuff. Let's learn how to communicate with others. And he was talking about how to fix ourselves. And I was like, okay. I don't know about this, but I stuck it through. I stayed up till 2 o'clock in the morning because he was in California and I was in Georgia. There's like a 3 hour time difference. And they tried to make it so it was after everybody had done business for the day and could put their kids to bed and whatnot. So I stayed up every week. Like I became so obsessed with it. And I was going to use it to fix everybody else in my house with me. If you've ever tried to fix somebody else, you can't fix anybody. But I would bet on making it happen. If I was gonna fix the home, they were fixing with me. And in that process, I lost so much of me. And one day I was like, I grew up and I thought I was pretty fit. I was super thin. I'd had kids and I lost the weight. And through this process of thinking that I could fix my home by fixing everybody else and convincing them how to do it, I gained 65 pounds. And I was going to the doctors and they were like, I had a physician say to me, you need to get up and move. You need to work out. You need to eat less. Don't eat off your kids' plates and your problems will be solved. And I was like, I'm not a problem to be solved. I'm never coming back. And I didn't. And I thought, I'm going to treat this myself. I don't need other people. If this guy can teach me for 2 hours every night how to have emotional intelligence and that's going to fix my life, this doctor's wrong. And then one day I went in to a supplement store. I literally became one of those people who, instead of going to medical doctors, I went to everything natural on the planet. If it existed naturally, it was going to solve it. And I was like, I'd go into her and I'd be like, I'm tired, I have a headache, I don't feel good, I'm gaining weight, I'm super inflamed, I have all these issues. And one day I went in and she goes, Samantha, if you don't get some if you don't show up less to these meetings, if you don't start taking care of yourself, there is nothing inside of my store that can help you because you are unwilling to actually help yourself. You need to stop coming to me for supplements and you need to put some boundaries in your life. And I was like, I'm not coming to you anymore either because I don't want to hear this. No. And then the next week, I was I went and took a test for my financial licenses. I had to go take a federal test and I failed it for the third time with the same score. I was so mad because that was in my mind preventing me from the next level. Like I believed I'd convinced myself that things were getting better at home when they were not. I was just lulled into a false sense of security in that area. I was ignoring my health completely because eventually somebody would share some magic pill with me that would solve that problem. And I went and took this test, and I was so devastated to have to tell everybody in our office that I didn't pass. And I was losing sleep like 2 or 3 hours a day, managing everything in my life so I could pass this and not fail in any other area. And on my way home, I was sitting, waiting to turn right out of a shopping center. And I was like, my kids are with a babysitter. My husband's at work. I hadn't told anybody that I hadn't passed yet. I was just ignoring my phone. And I was like, having it out with God about why this didn't make sense. And now I got to wait 6 months to take this test again. And oh my goodness, like pity party central. And this lady behind me decided to take my turn, floored it as fast as humanly possible, and rear-ended me right out into traffic. And 2 weeks after that, like those awakening moments that people tell all the time in their stories, I always thought that like my upbringing was like going to bring me some sort of story. Turns out I got to get in a car wreck and total my car. When we were so broke, I didn't even have gas money to get home that day. Like I was praying that I wouldn't run out of gas before I got back. And 2 weeks later, I just, God finally was like, this is it. My husband was going on a trip and I was had this raging headache from the car accident because I had been turned sideways and she slammed me and I was looking the other direction. It's like I was all twisted and everything. And he decided to go on a trip. And I was so mad because I didn't feel like I'd been consulted for this. And that was like my defining moment where I was like, ain't nobody gonna take care of you but yourself. You're no longer fat. You're no longer broke. Your kids are going to understand how life really works and how you actually implement all this emotional intelligence stuff. You're gonna listen to God this time. And that was it. I did a video to myself and I was like, hey, guess what? In a year from now, I don't know what it's gonna look like, but we're certainly not gonna look like this. And I went on this rant to myself where I was like, cutting off all other options. There was nothing else. And it took me a minute to realize there was so much to be grateful for in that happening because that was the catalyst to everything else. And so I want to show you these pictures because they get me emotional every time. It's been 3 years since that. That was in September, like end of September, beginning of October in 2021. And so it's been a little over 3 years. But a little bit about why I chose the path that I did and how grateful I am for it. This is me when I was 17, right before I decided to become a real adult and get married and start having kids. I had the most horrific eating disorder. But look how cute and tiny I was. I was like 105 pounds and I was proud of myself and I was going to LA and I was going to be a supermodel at 5'2" and nobody was going to stop me. And I guess God needed me to not do that. So I ended up getting married less than a year later, got pregnant right away, completely unexpected. And that I think saved me from a lot of choices that I would have gone down. I would have never ended up where I am. And then this one was like a couple of months after I had that defining moment. I went on a retreat with my sister and I was like trying so hard to pretend to love me, and I did not yet. And I was learning how to hear God. And a couple weeks after that, I went on a trip and I read Mel Robbins' High Five Habit. Just out of the blue, I wasn't even following Mel Robbins. I did not know who she was. And all of a sudden, I get this Instagram notification that Mel Robbins and Brendan Burchard are going live to talk about the High Five Habit. And I was like, I don't know who those people are. Why are they showing up on my phone? That's really strange. And I heard what she was talking about when she was launching the book, and I was like, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever heard in my life. And I bought the book, like expedited it to me so I could take it on the flight with me on this business trip. And that's just me on the flight, dedicating to me that I'm actually going to have my back now. We're going to figure this out. We're going to find happiness. And then the last picture was me just 3 months ago. I'm healthy because I want to be healthy, not because I'm starving myself, not because I became an exerciseaholic to make sure nobody ever thought that I gained any weight. And sometimes the weight will fluctuate a little bit. I might gain 5 pounds because I get busy and I have kids, but I know how to get back to me pretty quickly. And it's not about the scale. It was when I looked in the mirror one day and I thought, everything you've been through, every single trial that God has given you, was to help you to understand not just your own heart, but the hearts of other people too. You're going to change a lot of lives because of that. If I hadn't been through these things, I wouldn't be able to relate to people. I can't lead with light if there is darkness in me. I have to find the light and then I share it with other people. And to get to be that person for other people like Sam is really fun to be able to do that because I can see differently. Because I'm still learning, because I'm still growing, because I'm still figuring things out. But I'm so incredibly grateful that I know what it's like to have a severe eating disorder, that I know what it's like to go through incredible trials and still come out on the other side, that I know what it's like to be the water slamming against that stinking rock over and over, wondering if anything's ever going to happen, and then start to see things move and start to understand why God did all of this. And to be able to share today with you guys that gratitude doesn't mean accepting things exactly as they are and then not wanting growth. It means finding reasons to be grateful and still looking for more because we are daughters and sons of a loving Heavenly Father who wants us to learn and grow and have amazing, incredible things. But we appreciate them more if we understand what it's like to have the opposite. You need to know the darkness to appreciate the light. And you appreciate the light because you've seen the darkness. That is what I want to share. I'm going to unshare this. And I hope that brings some sort of impact and enlightenment to somebody else as we think about everything that we've learned this week from every single speaker that we've had.
You're gonna make me cry. And Dr. Lynn, this is how you end a gratitude summit. There's so many bombs you said. You can't you can't lead if light with light if there's darkness within me. Our story helps us learn how to relate to others. And just there's so many. I was typing them out. Yeah, I started Celebrate Recovery the first time to fix my ex-husband. And I went there, I'm like, yeah, I need to go. I'm just gonna be here to support him. And then the first time I got to small group and everybody was sharing for the first at least month, probably 6 weeks I was going in small group share when they have you share and whatever. I cried during my whole time because I was beginning to realize that, oh, it might be me. But Samantha, you are a true joy. You are a light in the dark world. And I see how you show up for yourself, for your kids, for your clients, and just the world in general. And I don't know what questions I have for you I'm in awe. Like I probably will never look at water the same. And she's always telling me to drink more water, y'all. Track your water. Why aren't you tracking your water? I'm drinking it, but I'm not tracking it. But now, because that you're so right, I always have equated like banging my head on the same wall and nothing happens. Like, how many times am I going to bang my head on the wall? But with the water, it continues, it perseveres to get through because it's on the right place. It's going where it needs to go. The wall I was banging my head on wasn't the right wall, right? So there's a difference there. I love that you showed the pictures. And I'll tell y'all, ladies, when I first met Samantha, I've already told her this. When I first met Samantha, and I was thinking, I know I'm ready to hire somebody to help me because I believe that this is the last part of my healing journey of creating a life I love is to get this weight thing in check. My body, my movement, my food, my water, all the stuff, the nutrition. It's not about the weight, it's about being healthy. I'm finally ready to do this, but I didn't want to hire her. And it was because she was skinny, like really skinny. And I thought, how on earth is this skinny little thing gonna be able to relate to me? And I saw one of the posts you did on Facebook with one of your before and after pictures, and I'm like, oh, maybe she does know what she's talking about. And so I just want to encourage the people here, the women here, tell your story. Your story is what will connect with the people you're called to serve. And so for everybody that shared I get emotional thinking about how everybody trusted me to show up here, whether you were a guest speaker, whether you were a participant, that you chose to spend some time with us, and especially for the women that shared their story. So just thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Samantha, I don't know what else to say other than I'm like, I was typing mic drop. I'm so glad we have this recorded because you're going to want to go back and share it and use it on social media. And that's what I want for everybody here, to use your story, whether it's this video or something else. But I'm telling you, we think that people scrolling through on Instagram, looking at the perfect snapshot feed, everybody's life is so perfect. And we think that's what draws people to us. And that is just not true. It's a lie. The reality of your life and the story and the problems you've gone through and how you've been able to heal from this to create what you have now, or even you're in the middle of it, you're not done yet. I'm not done yet, and God help me, I don't think I'm ever going to be done because there's always going to be something else to learn and to do and to be able to improve. But when you share your story, that's when you can connect. People connect through story, and they connect through the messiness. We don't connect when everything's, oh, look at me, I got everything together, everything's perfect. That's not what happens. We connect through our brokenness. And as they say, when something's broken, that's when the light can shine through. And so, Samantha, you are the perfect woman to end our summit together. Anybody else could have been, and they would have done a great job too. And I'm glad it was you.
Thank you.